Dear friends, welcome back to the course on biochemic remedies, and I am your instructor Ashok Rajguru. In this video, we shall see whether or not biochemic remedies are relevant today. And in order to understand that, we shall just take a quick glance at some historical facts. It's a very common doubt that arises in the minds of people that how is it that a biochemic therapy or the use of biochemic remedies, which came about something like 200 years ago, is still having relevance after all the advances that we have seen in medical science. Indeed, there are some myths that surround medical science, and we shall just see some of them. If we look at the happenings that happened after those years, from the year 1900 till today, which is the 20th century and the 21st century, or the third millennium, let's see what have been the major developments in medical science. First of all, surgery has developed tremendously. We'll just come back to this shortly. Another great development that has taken place in medical field is that of vaccines. Mind you, the concept of vaccine started around the same time as Hahnemann. Hahnemann went down the route of homeopathic remedies, and vaccines were developed around the same time. And they share some common principles, but we'll not be discussing those as yet. The other major development in the last 200 years have been the development of antibiotics. In fact, antibiotics have come to the scene in less than 100 years. But the major developments in modern medicine have been some advances in surgery, big advances in development of vaccines, antibiotics, and diagnostics. So X-rays, CAT scans, PET scans, and so many other means of analysis of the physiology of a person have been made possible only in these 2 centuries. But if we take a closer look at these, we find that vaccines and antibiotics basically are belonging to the realm of the medical industrial complex, about which we shall talk shortly. Diagnostics also is a push from the industrial establishment. And when we talk about surgery, very frankly, surgery is exactly what it was 10,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago. In India, surgery was very developed in the time of Sushruta, which is a couple of thousand years, definitely more than 3,000 years ago. And what are the basic 2 things which are done in surgery? One is incision with a scalpel. At one time, it may have been done with just a sharpened flintstone. And the other development is, the other part of surgery is suturing, using horsehair in order to stitch or sew the wounds up. Those wounds could have been inflicted due to trauma or after surgery. These are the 2 basic things that a surgeon does. There are different tools available today for microscopic surgery and other such things, which are the blessings of the industrial age. But in essence, nothing has changed. And what has changed in the field of medicine is, if you look at any website or any book of history on medical science, it's only vaccines and antibiotics. Nothing has added to our knowledge in terms of disease. The only approach that we have to disease is that of microbes and neoplasia. We'll talk about that by and by, but for now we shall continue further. I spoke about the medical industrial complex. You see, research takes billions or trillions of dollars of inputs. And these dollars are controlled by the politicians, by the industrialists, and the people who run the big pharma companies. This is not a forum to criticize that or to comment on that, but we are just looking at the reality on the ground. This medical industrial complex controls education and research funding, so that people develop a certain bias or people are channeled into a particular groove in order to discover things which are in the interest of the medical industrial complex. They also control public relations and they manage the media to their advantage. So all the knowledge that you get, all the claims that are made in the name of medical science are actually funded, financed, and controlled by the medical industrial complex. Further, there is a patent regime, and we have the World Trade Organization, which regulates all these products which are made by the medical industrial complex. To read more about this, I would highly recommend that you look at the New England Medical Journal, which is a very respected journal of medicine. The link is given over here, and I shall also post this link in the articles or the write-ups that are going to be posted in this course. The other one is from another important journal, The Oncologist, and the link for that is also given and will be provided separately. Let's take a look at what this writer on health has to say. Ross Hume Hall writes in his book on health and global environment, and nothing has changed since the date of publication. And I quote him, he said, "Plugged coronary arteries are only symptoms of the basic disease, which is atherosclerosis. Further, arterial degeneration is not corrected by the operation and the plaques continue their relentless buildup." So the surgeon may help you in order to get rid of those buildup of uh, whatever is blocking the arteries, but it doesn't stop the process. So that's only a temporary measure. So as I told you, in these discoveries made by the medical industrial complex, nothing has changed in order to stop that degenerative process. Here's another quotation taken from the Lancet, which is one of the most famous medical journals, peer reviewed, and it's got a very sound standing in international medical circles. And here is a quote from there: 20% of newly bypassed arteries become plugged again within 1 year. That's quite alarming. Here is another professor from the Graduate School of Public Policy who has a medical background, and his name is Aaron Wildavesky. This is what he has to inform us. The medical system, he's talking about the entire system, which consists of doctors, drugs, hospitals, affect about 10% of the usual indices for measuring health. This means that 90% of all illness is unaffected by high-tech medicine. That's yet another alarming statement by a person who knows what he's talking, and he belongs to a field that affects all of us. 90% of all illness is not at all affected by all that hyped up high-tech medicine. The reference for this is given below, and you can read the entire article in order to get a grasp on this particular topic. So that is turning people towards complementary and alternative therapy. Given below is a reference from the Journal of American Medical Association, a very respected journal, and let us see what it has to tell us. 65% of the people in the world are using complementary and alternative therapy. This is according to World Health Organization statistics. The reason why people are turning to CAM, or complementary and alternative therapy, is that conventional treatment is ineffective. People are dissatisfied for the reasons which we have seen in the previous slides. People feel more in control. People feel empowered. They feel that they have autonomy over themselves and on their health once they turn towards complementary and alternative therapy. So when we are talking about biochemical remedies, or in the earlier course we had batch flower remedies, these are very effective remedies which can help those 90% of the people who are not touched by modern medicine. And these are based on scientific principles which you shall learn in this course. Also, people turn to complementary and alternative therapy for the simple reason it appeals to them because it is more compatible with their worldview and their personal philosophy of life. So that brings us to the end of the video. In summary, we saw that the advances in medical sciences over the latter part of the last century and even in this century have centered around antibiotics and vaccines and diagnostic tools. Very little has been understood in terms of illness, in terms of sickness, in terms of the experience that the person is undergoing. Conventional medical science has not been able to give us effective remedies for chronic states. So far, we are just managing diabetes. So far, we are just trying to keep cancer away, either by surgery or by chemotherapy. If you look at the record of the recovery rates and the life after all these interventions, it is really pathetic as far as the patient is concerned. And what the patient really needs is dignity, empowerment, and compassion. By learning about these remedies, you will be able to have that empowerment in order to help yourself, your family, and your close friends. So please take this course seriously. At the end of this course, you're going to be tremendously benefited. So thank you very much, my friends, for your attention. And I am very certain you're going to benefit tremendously. Thank you and bye-bye, and meet you once again in the next video. Meanwhile, please keep up with your comments on the forum. The comments are actually the best teachers because that is where you discuss your doubts, you bring your questions forward, and you're able to put across your views in the classroom. In this virtual classroom, I wish to have participation from every member. Thank you and bye-bye.